Hopefully everybody can hear what I'm saying. We'll give it a minute to make sure that everybody can. So it looks like we're 14 seconds in. Everything looks like it's going okay. So yeah, I guess maybe I'll just talk a little bit about how nice the weather is out here. It's beautiful, it's sunny, it's springtime, and I'm so happy to be outside and not cooped up inside, thanks to the COVID restrictions and so forth. So going out, well, obviously COVID restrictions are still in play and all those sorts of things, but yeah. So anyway, it looks like looks like some people are in and we're good. So I guess we'll start answering some questions. So today we're doing a live Q&A. We're doing it in the nice, beautiful weather, and I'm going to be answering some questions from the chat after I answer some questions that I got on my community tab. So without any further ado, I guess we'll start with the first question.
How you holding up, champ?
So the first question is, how you holding up, champ? And I just want to make sure, is my audio okay, everybody? Looking good? I think it's probably okay. So somebody asked, how you holding up, champ? And I'm holding up okay. It's fine. No major complaints. Everything is going okay.
If I made a battle jacket covered with DIY patches of shallow AstroTurf pop musicians, would other people think it was ironic or meta, or would everyone think I was a poser? Also, what are your thoughts on how to prevent normies from going back to brunch?
I think everybody would just think it was ironic and that you were a poser. That's the thing about wearing one of those jackets, is that definitely half of the people that are in punk or metal or whatever are going to think that you're a poser. Half are going to think that you're doing it ironically. What was the second question?
What are your thoughts on how to prevent normies from going back to brunch?
My thoughts on how to prevent normies from going back to brunch. I don't think that we really can fully prevent normies from going back to brunch, because they've already started going back to brunch right now, which is upsetting. But I think that the main thing is just trying to talk to as many people as you can, and try to explain to them the things that you believe in a way that they can hopefully understand. Everything, or not every single person that you talk to is going to be somebody that you're going to be able to change their mind. But that doesn't mean that their mind isn't able to be changed. Usually it just takes maybe somebody else or maybe a different argument. But yeah, if you just keep talking to people, keep telling them the truth, that sort of thing, I think that's the best way to make sure that the normies don't go fully back to brunch. It's not looking so good so far. So we got to get out there and start talking to people.
What suggestions might you have for starting a leftist reading group? Locations, getting the word out, book recommendations, etc.?
That's a good question. So leftist reading groups. Now, this is just like doing any kind of group activity. You're going to need to talk to people to get them involved, to actually go to do the reading group itself. Yeah, I always default back to talk to your family, talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors. Hopefully, if you've done all that, you might have a small leftist group already created, and that would be a great way to use that as a springboard to do book reviews and that sort of thing. Or one awesome thing is that if you are a student and you have a lot of friends that are in school, that's a great place to be able to spread the ideas around and talk to people, gather them together after school, and do book reviews and so forth like that. As far as book recommendations, I always say The ABCs of Anarchism by Alexander Berkman. It's one of my favorite reads. It's a really, really good book. And it really breaks down all of the basic essentials that you need to know about anarchism in a very easy to understand way. Obviously, the Bread book, The Conquest of Bread by Peter Kropotkin, a wonderful work as well. And many Peter Kropotkin books are actually really good. And then I would also say diving in a little bit into some Bookchin, Bookchin, Murray Bookchin. He's got some really, really great work on social ecology and communalism and hierarchy and that sort of thing. So yeah, what's a good book from Bookchin? What was the one that we really liked? I think communalism and social ecology is a really good one to start with. So I would go for that one. Absolutely.
What are your views for the future? Are you pessimistic or optimistic? And also, you have an awesome channel.
Oh, thank you. I hopefully you can hear my partner here giving me the questions. If you can't, just let me know to tell her to speak a little bit louder. But what was the question again? My views on.
What are your views for the future? Are you
Yeah.
pessimistic or optimistic?
So my views for the future, I'm inherently an optimist, right? I think that things are going to work out well because really we have either things work out well or we all don't exist anymore. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm an optimist. I think that we can work together, we can work really hard, and we can change the system, we can change the future, and we can make it into something that is actually going to help everyone. And yeah, that's my view on it. As far as going down the pessimism road and being a doomer and all that sort of stuff, I don't think that it's helpful. I think that there is a place for it when you start getting depressed, when you feel lonely, when you feel like you're isolated and unable to cope with a lot of the stuff that's going on. That makes total sense. But at the end of the day, those kind of mentalities don't actually help build anything. And I think that's what we need to be doing right now is building towards a better future. Constantly thinking that everything is terrible and everything is going to result in shit is going to, make your actions in the world. You're not going to be as dedicated to making a beautiful future, I don't think, if you're constantly looking at things in a very pessimistic lens. So look at things realistically and hope for the best, plan for the worst. That's kind of the way I look at it.
How are you feeling today?
How am I feeling today? I'm feeling really good. I'm energized. I'm going to go shopping for some bras later. Not for myself, not this time.
What are your thoughts on monarchies and the Queen of England / the royal family?
What are my thoughts on monarchies and the Queen of England? I hate them. I think that they're a sham. I think that they're a bunch of privileged dorks that have magic blood that shouldn't exist in any capacity whatsoever. I think that all of the royal family should be stripped of all of their royal powers, stripped of all of their abilities. Personally, stripped of all of their land, have that redistributed to the people, and just turned into common folk, because that's all that they are. They are just a bunch of, well, maybe not now, but they at one point were just a bunch of inbred rich people who lorded over a bunch of other people. So get rid of that entirely. I do kind of like the pageantry when it comes to the royal family. As a Canadian, I mean, I grew up around everybody being fully up the royal family's ass. So I've seen a lot of parades and that sort of thing. And the Queen is venerated here. So, I mean, like, I kind of think it's interesting, like an interesting historical thing that we still, or that the British still have, like, those guys walking around with the big hats, the royal guards and that sort of thing. The changing of the guards is neat, but outside of the pageantry of it all, what is there? What is the use of having it? I don't see it at all. They don't bring in any money either. That's an argument that they try to say. Oh, the royal family brings in a ton of money for what's it called? Tourism, but it doesn't. It doesn't bring in any money for that. Very little.
This question starts with, hi, I love the way you explain things and encourage you to go on. What's your point of view on religion?
My point of view on religion. I'm an atheist. I have been for many, many years. This channel actually used to be dedicated towards skepticism and atheism, and I since changed the trajectory of the channel to mostly talk about anarchism and communism. But as far as religion goes, I think that it has a use, and I also think that it's used to dominate people. So spirituality, for example, I don't see as being very harmful. I see it as not necessarily a net good, but not necessarily a bad thing either. I think for a lot of people, they need to have that grounding in a spirituality. They like to have some sort of almost like a metaphysical realm that they're able to take ideas from and take confidence and so forth from. And I think that as far as that aspect of it is concerned, sorry, there's trucks driving by. I think that it's really useful. But just like anything that, has Bible, like with anything that has scripture and history and all of that sort of thing, that basically leads towards a person at the top that controls everything, in this case, God or the Pope or whoever it is, it leads itself to unjustified hierarchies, and it leads itself to inevitably having a bunch of people trying to rule or control another group of people. So that's kind of my view on religion. I don't think it's necessarily 100% bad, but I definitely don't think that it's 100% good either.
What are your thoughts on the current Vosh drama?
I don't know what drama you're talking about. The Vosh, as far as the Vosh drama goes, I believe whatever you believe, viewer. So then you will agree with me and think that my opinions are correct. That's as far as I'm concerned on that. I don't even know what the Vosh drama is. I don't know what he's done or said. I don't know what other people have done or said. I don't follow that shit. I try to be off Twitter as much as possible. My view on Twitter, which is where most of the drama comes from, is that it's basically not for news. You don't go to Twitter for news. You should know this by now. You either go to Twitter to hurt other people or to be hurt by other people. That's the only use of Twitter. So I would suggest just staying off that platform. Delete your account. It's not a good website. I do have to still go on it for business and that sort of thing. But yeah, I try not to get involved in the drama stuff. It's not part of this channel. I'm about leftist unity, not about division. So I'm not going to touch that one.
Recommended hair care routine.
For like a recommended hair care routine for me or for you? Because I would say you probably should wash your hair every day or every second day. Use soap and have a shower. It uses less water than having a bath probably. As far as recommended hair routine for my dreadlocks, I try to wash them as often as I possibly can, which is usually every 2 to 3 days. I use regular soap. I don't use conditioner because it could untangle some of the knots. Just try to maintain it, keep it clean. That's basically the way that we do it.
What do you think online creators who are typically debate bros or news orgs should be doing to encourage activism and community building in real life?
Sure. So debate bros, online news orgs, how do you make or get them to promote more activism in real life, IRL? I would suggest if any of the debate bros or anything like that are watching right now, I would just suggest that you talk about it more. I know that there are a lot of big things that are happening in the culture war, right? Like people are talking about canceling Pepe Le Pew, which is a big thing right now, and people are talking about a whole bunch of stuff, right? And I know that that's easy content. I know that that's stuff that gets a lot of views, gets a lot of attention, that sort of thing. Do that, obviously. You need to play the algorithm. But for God's sakes, please talk about in real life organizing more. Because we need people with large voices, large platforms to talk about, to get engaged, get their audiences to get out there and get active. Because if we're not doing that, then they're not going to do it. We need to encourage people to get more active in their communities in any way that we possibly can. So yeah, talk about the drama, talk about the culture war, talk about all of the other stuff that really doesn't matter, right? Because it's going to get you the views. But at the end of the day, make sure that you're tying it all towards getting out there, getting active, getting involved, and making a difference, because we're not going to make any change if we don't do that.
Where to get stickers and other things such as posters for that matter?
Like propaganda posters, is that what they're saying? So I've done many propaganda poster, like Agit Prop days where we've gone around and posted up posters and stuff like that. I have made a lot of them myself in the past, but there is a really, really great account on Twitter who I'm trying to remember their name, but I can't. I can see the picture of their face in my head. But they make amazing posters. Do you remember what their name is? I can't remember what their name is off the top of my head, and I'm so sorry. I always do this. I see their picture, but and I always like all of their stuff, but I can never remember who they are. I'm gonna leave a link in the description box and probably in the pinned comment afterwards to a person that makes some really great posters, and hopefully that'll help you out a little bit. And as far as stickers and that sort of thing goes, you can usually go to different anti-fascist groups and that sort of thing, and usually they'll have merch websites where you can get stickers and that sort of thing. I'm not sure if Feral or Sharp does. You know that various Antifa orgs do that and that sort of thing. So try to check those out. You'll usually find stickers there. And as far as posters go, sometimes Googling just propaganda posters works. I should actually make a doc, honestly, of all of the posters that I've personally made. And maybe we'll do that in the future. Is we'll make a doc of all of the posters, and then everybody that has posters tribute them, and then we can kind of make like a central hub where everybody can go and grab that sort of stuff, because propaganda is really important.
Other than the community fridge, what are some organizations you have started or done work for? Have any of them ever failed? If so, what did you learn from it?
Sure. So we have a couple of different orgs that we're involved in. A couple of anti-fascist orgs that I'm not going to say the name of, just for, we don't need to do that. And they've been really, really, really wonderful. Doing a little bit of work here and there for them has been, really rewarding, and I really enjoyed a lot of that. And also I've worked in the past with a couple of other groups, Food Not Bombs, Maoist groups, a couple of other things, and we've also really been working strongly in the last couple of months to build a community defense org, which we've just barely broken the ground on that one yet, and there's a lot of work to be done on there, but that one is working out really well. The only group that I've actually had a problem with was just this one group who I'm not going to name. It's not a big deal. Who I found was a little bit too strong with the unjustified hierarchy aspect of it. There was one member of the group that chose themselves to be the leader. They were not voted in to be the leader. They chose themselves to be the leader. Yeah. Can you see me again? Well, it should be live now. Okay, thanks. Yeah, okay, hopefully I'm back on now. Okay, so so there was this one group that I worked with, and the person that put themselves in as the leader, I love them to death. I think that all of the work that they did was really, really great. I think that they did an incredibly good job of starting the org. I also, from the very beginning, me and my partner worked to start that org as well. We were in, I think, 1 or 2 months into the very beginning. It was the three of us basically at the very beginning working on it. And over time, it just ended up resulting in that one person taking on more and more opportunities for them to make it into their personal vanity project and not an actual thing that everybody was able to work towards and vote in. So we left hopefully on goodish terms, and because my partner and I couldn't handle doing that sort of thing, we really didn't want to be involved in an organization that was going down that path. So we try to help them as much as we possibly can now. But we had to split off. We had to go different directions, and I think that was really for the best for our personal growth. And from that, we've learned a lot of things. One of the things that the organization that I'm talking about didn't do was really get invested in its community. It mostly viewed itself as a charity that was coming into a community to save them, and not from the community, for the community, by the community, which is what most mutual aid organizations should be. So we learned a lot about a lot from that, and from that is actually what took us to actually physically going around and knocking on doors and talking to people where they're at, and starting getting a hall opened up so we could bring everybody from the community in there and sit them down and have an actual meeting with real people. We did all that, and we think that that was the best possible thing that we could do, because really, when all of this stuff is happening, it's not just you or your Marxist group or your anarchist group coming in to save people, right? It's all of us working together to save ourselves. That's mutual aid, right? So we might have the ideas, we might have the knowledge, we might be able to be that stick that holds the plant up and keeps it sturdy. But at the end of the day, that's all we are. We are just a stick to keep people sturdy. We're not trying to be their leader. We're not trying to be their boss. We're trying to empower and help to get other people to empower themselves to do work.
What can I do to help pull my parents out of the queue hole?
A fishing rod. No. How do you help pull your parents out of the queue hole? Really long rubber gloves that you use to stick inside the back end of a cow. It's really hard, right? the thing is that the state, the media, corporations, everything like that is working really, really, really hard to divide the people. They want you to fight with your grandfather. They want your grandfather to fight with your niece. They want everybody to be divided in that family unit because they know at the end of the day that if families are working together, if neighbors are working together, if everybody's coming together, they're not going to be able to continue to divide us and force us to fight against one another so they can keep taking all of the money and power, right? So to get your parents out of the queue hole, it's going to take a lot of different things. It might be one thing works for one family and another completely different thing works for another family. I found that with people that think about things logically, the best way to talk them out of that sort of thing is to really ask them questions that allow them to come to their own conclusions, right? I talk about this being leading questions, not misleading questions. You don't want people to get the wrong impression, but you want to ask people questions that bring them to a point where they can see the flaws in their logic on things. I have an entire series where I talk about that. It's called the How to Revolution series, and you can check that out in my playlist section on my channel.
Can you explain quickly how we're doing the questions, where we're drawing them from, and when we'll be doing the other ones?
Oh, just draw them from the community tab for now, and then when say 3 or 4 more, and then maybe we'll go to if y'all want to do super chats, we'll answer super chats first. And if not, then we'll just go through reading questions from the community tab, and then eventually get to the ones that are on the YouTube.
Anything that you missed about the extreme right life? Genuine question.
Anything I miss about the extreme right life? No, there's nothing that I missed from that. I learned a lot from it, right? I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about things like freedom of speech and what the limitations of that should and shouldn't be. I learned a lot about human behavior, how people act and react to different situations. Actually, interestingly enough, I was literally just talking about one of the interactions that I had with a school teacher earlier today when I was in that far right life. And one of the interactions that I had was with a friend of mine that was a white supremacist, white nationalist. We're not friends anymore. But we ended up getting kicked out of summer school because we constantly were saying that it was, got more cars in the background. So yeah, we ended up getting kicked out of summer school because this friend of mine was constantly talking about race realism and that sort of thing. And I was constantly on the end of defending this complete and utter nonsense. And I did so because I was like, well, it's his freedom to say these things. What are you talking about? And it ended up actually leading to us almost getting into a physical fist fight, a physical confrontation with one of the teachers. The teacher was actually really quite clever, though, because when we were about to get into this fight, he was like, okay, fine. Oh, you guys want to fight? You guys want to fight? All right, let's go fight. And he walked us towards the door, let us go out first, and then closed the door behind us and locked the door. And after that, I was suspended from summer school. So I'm actually really glad that we didn't get into an actual fight because of it. But it's just interesting how a lot of those different memories and a lot of those different behaviors and so forth from my past, and probably from your past too, come back and echo in your current life. And you think about things a little bit differently, right? Growing up, I always thought that my neighborhood was bad because there were a lot of other bad people around. It wasn't until recently I realized my neighborhood might have been bad because we were kind of bad.
What do you think of Quebec's independence movement from the rest of Canada?
Quebec's independence movement from the rest of Canada. I think it's silly, but also I'm not a nationalist. So if Quebec wants to leave Canada, let them. All the power to them. If all the people want that, good. But I think that it's a little bit silly because Canada does work a little bit like a closed ecosystem where all of the different provinces together have different aspects that they focus on, right? So there's the fishing industry on the coasts, there's the oil industry in Alberta, there's the farming industry in Saskatchewan, there's the business sector in Ontario and that sort of thing. And it all kind of works together, as a more cohesive unit when we all kind of work together. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't want to have the nation of Canada anymore, right? I want that to be broken apart, and I want it to be turned into confederations of communities that associate together to work towards the best possible future. That's the goal. So as far as any nationalist goals that any nationalist organization or group or whatever is trying to obtain, I don't really have an opinion on that because it's not part of our goal. I think that it's I think that it's silly, but I don't think that it's I don't think it's one of the main concerns that I have. Quebec has wanted to separate my entire life, right? And they haven't done it. So are they ever going to do it? I don't.
What would shops be like in an ANCOM society?
Shops like stores? Okay, so sure. So stores and shops and stuff like that in an anarcho-communist society would function, in my thinking, almost exactly the way that they do now. The only difference is that we don't use money. So if somebody wants to get something from the store, they walk into the store, they grab the item, they put it in their cart, they bring it over to the cashier. The cashier checks a barcode and then puts it back inside of a bag, and you walk it out to your car. Now, the only reason why you'd bring it to a cashier, they wouldn't have cash anymore, obviously, but the only reason why you'd bring it to a person and scan a barcode is just to let the store know to order more of that specific good. Outside of that, you'd just be able to put it in your car, drive home. And as far as working for the things that you can obtain in the community, every single job within the community is necessary if you want to have a functioning community. So the entire community would have to agree that certain people would do certain amounts of work at a certain amount of time so they can get enough goods out of the community so they could provide for everybody. And everybody would be rewarded for doing that work by getting everything that the entire community was able to produce. A lot of right-wingers have a really hard time understanding that. They think that, oh, well, I wouldn't work for free, or I wouldn't give everything away for free, when they don't really put those things together and see that, well, you're not really working for free. You're working to benefit your community, create a resource, create a good, create a service in your community that everybody can enjoy and benefit from, right? So you're not working for free, you're working to help your community. And you're not getting everything for free, you're getting everything because you helped your community. That's the way a community should function. We shouldn't abstract everything and make it all turned into pieces of paper, fun tokens, or a digital number on a screen. We can agree with one another to do those sorts of things for the benefit of all humanity.
Is making a Facebook page a great way to start mutual aid?
Making a Facebook page, is that a great way to start mutual aid? Okay, Facebook pages can help, right? It's a good way to get in contact with people. It's a good way to talk to a lot of the little old ladies that are out there that will really, really, really enjoy getting involved in mutual aid. You would not believe how many little old ladies love mutual aid. They do. They really, really do. And Facebook is a great way to get a hold of them, but it's not a great way to do mutual aid in and of itself. The best way to do mutual aid is literally physically going and talking to people in your community. And it can literally just be the guy that lives next door to you. That's the best possible solution. That's the best way to do mutual aid. If you are disabled or unable to go out and talk to other people because of whatever reason, then definitely using online resources like Facebook, like any number of other things, Snapchat, Twitter. I don't use Snapchat. I don't even know what you'd be able to use that for, but I'm sure you can use a number of other apps to do that. But yeah, I've always found that directly going to people and talking to them in person is the most effective way.
I'm still stuck on getting some comrades to start an official BreadTube or BreadTube type website separate from the corporate controlled social media sites in case we get bumped.
Cool.
It's certainly possible, and they all do it at once. We can lose contract with each other. Question: in the event social media bumps leftists, what are we going to do if we don't have a common BreadTube website to stay connected? Will some comrades with the know-how please build a site before it's too late?
Yeah, I agree with this comment, and I share the fear. One of the main problems that content creators have, and it's the main problem that I have as well, is I just don't have the time to start another channel and to put all of the energy into it to get it to the size that it would need to make a statement, when I also have to be doing YouTube and Twitter and on the ground activism and all of these other things, at a certain point you get stretched out so thin that even though something like that would be incredibly beneficial, you just don't have the time to do it. So I've been meaning to get on Means TV for over a year now. I've been meaning to get on all of these other platforms for months and months. But I just don't have the effing time to sit there and actually upload all of the videos to it, put on the thumbnails, the tags, learn the new website entirely. I'm also kind of I'm an old fuck. I don't know everything about technology, right? So I know what I know, and I don't know a lot of things. So it makes it a very big hurdle for a lot of us, and I think a lot of people also have that same problem. And yeah, if any of y'all out there are good at setting up websites and that sort of thing, I know Means TV is a great way to do it. It's sort of similar to a worker cooperative, but we need more alternatives all the time. One idea that I've actually had for a little while that I wish somebody could put into practice, if you're a web developer out there, here, I'll give this for free, is if you could somehow take all of the different bullshit social media apps and put it all inside of one timeline on one website, right? So you can see your YouTube videos that you subscribe to, your Twitter account that you subscribe to, your Snapchat that you subscribe to, and that sort of thing, all in one easy to access feed. Right there would make it unbelievably easy for us to actually see a lot of the content that we're doing, because I miss a lot of this shit, right? I miss a lot of Twitch streams because I don't really know how to use Twitch. I mean, I know how to use Twitch. I log on, I watch a video, blah, blah, blah. Right. I get it. But it's not one of the ones that I immediately am drawn to or that I go to. Right. So if everything was all in one feed like that, it would be so much easier.
You got a super chat for from Bersalak. Are you a wobbly? Thoughts on the IWW?
Oh, thanks, Bersalak. I really appreciate it. And no, I'm not a wobbly. No, I'm not technically a wobbly. We were working with the IWW, just for, in case none of you know, the wobblies are another name for the people that are in the International Workers of the World Union, or the IWW, which is a radical leftist union that works towards not just having one specific organization or group, or say like plumbers or whatever, go on strike. It works towards getting all of the people that are in an industry to go on strike at once, and I think that's great. And no, I'm not a wobbly. I want to be eventually. We were working on a YouTube union for a little while through the IWW. I don't know a whole lot about what happened with that. Unfortunately, I got too busy and I wasn't able to keep up with it a lot. But I love the IWW. I support them all the time. We got IWW merch that I try to rep all through the city as much as I possibly can. So they're a great organization. Recently, them and the SRA got together, and now the SRA, the Socialist Rifle Association, has their own IWW union. And honestly, I think every leftist org, if it works for you, should work to be part of a unified group. If it's not IWW, it could be anything else, right? But we all need to get together and unify right fucking now. We need to do that yesterday, 10 years. We needed to do that 20 years ago.
What's your thought on anarcho-hybridism as presented in the book, The Conquest of the State? Do you think it is a viable way to truly unite the left?
I can't say I know much about it. Does anybody have, is there a link to a book on there or anything? What was it called? Anarcho-hybridism?
The Conquest of the State?
The Conquest of the State. I don't know much about that, but if you do know anything about that, leave a link in the comment. Don't leave a link. YouTube will delete it. Leave some information in the comments down below, and hopefully I'll be able to learn a little bit something new about this specific anarcho idea. Hybridism. Yeah.
I've seen anarchists on Twitter who believe that democracy is oppressing the minority and wanting instead to implement free association. What are your thoughts on this?
It really depends. It depends on how you look at a lot of this stuff, right? So anarchism, throughout the years, a lot of people that were in that ideology looked at democracy as specifically liberal democracy, and they thought of that as being inherently oppressive. It inherently just works towards removing people's rights. And I do think that other forms of democracy should definitely be used, ranked choice voting, consensus democracy, all of those things. But I think that all of those different types of systems need to be used in specific circumstances, because in one circumstance, ranked choice voting is going to work perfectly, where in another circumstance, direct voting, direct democracy is going to work perfectly, or none of them will work perfectly, and you have to use an amalgamation of them. So yes, I think that we should be using all of those forms except for representative democracy in the way that we have it in this liberal democratic system right now. You could definitely have certain forms of representation, but I think that it would fall more in a liquid democracy style rather than in a representative democracy. And that basically means that you'd be able to nominate or, well, not really elect, but nominate a person to make political decisions on your behalf that you can fire or remove at any time if they do something that you don't like. So yeah, many different forms of democracy for many different ideas and solutions.
You got a super chat from M. Lil Things. Progressive ownership of workplace and rent as a business? Question mark.
Progressive ownership of workplace and rent as a business. What was that? Sorry.
Progressive ownership of workplace and rent as a business? Question mark.
I don't understand what that.
I don't either.
Oh.
Do you think that that's a good idea?
Oh, yeah, of course I think it's a good idea. Who's the one that gave me a super chat?
M. Lil Things.
M. Lil Things. Thank you so much for giving me a super chat. You're awesome. People like you guys that are giving the super chats and donating on Patreon. You really make the show a possibility, because without you, I would not be able to do this show. It takes an incredibly large amount of time to go out and do the videos, and not only that, but then on the ground activism and stuff. So I really appreciate y'all doing that. And yes, absolutely, we need to have more we need to have more of that in every single business, right? I'm a very, very strong believer in worker cooperatives. I don't think that they're the be-all end-all, but I definitely think that they are a step, a pillar that will allow us to create the dual power structures that we need to actually subvert capitalism. And I think that in any way that we can possibly make our workplaces a little bit more democratic, a little bit more egalitarian, a little bit more socialistic in any way, I think that it's a great thing. So hopefully that answers your question. I hope.
What do you think about anarcho-primitivism?
Sorry about all the traffic in the background, by the way. I'm apparently on a main street right now. What do I think about anarcho-primitivism? I don't think that it's a lot like what do I think about the Amish, right? I think that they don't use technology and stuff, but they're also not here to tell me about it because they don't use technology. So anarcho-primitivism probably a similar thing. I would like to talk to an AmPrim, because as far as I know, I think it's just an internet meme. And if I was able to talk to somebody in real life that believed in those sorts of things, that would be kind of cool. But I don't think that they would be interested in coming on my show, because again, I'm part of the problem, I assume.
Regarding your video on the Vanguard Party, without a centralized party, wouldn't the parties fight each other rather than band together? I would think each would develop disagreements, however small, which would drive a wedge of conflict and cause infighting rather than fighting to dismantle the existing system. How could this be prevented?
Yeah, I really hope that you were able to hear that question, because it's a little bit long and I can't recite it again. The Vanguard Party, now, the way that I look at a Vanguard Party is a little bit different than other people. So I think as an anarchist that the idea of having a central controlled party is going to inevitably lead to that central controlled party holding on to power and trying to make themselves the leadership, right? Do I think that if a bunch of different parties were to get together, a bunch of different orgs were to get together to work together as a confederation, that it would devolve into infighting and so forth? Maybe. But the same sort of thing could be said about a centralized party. The difference between a centralized party and having everybody democratically coming together is that at the end of the day, that centralized party has the final say. And if it wants to declare itself as the king or whatever, the ruler, it can do that because it has the power to basically boss around all of those other groups. So I think that the problems that would arise from having many groups working together as a federation vastly outweighs the problems that would come up of having just another vanguard party that we've seen time and time again fall apart. And this is what I was talking about before. When I'm thinking of a vanguard party, right, in a way that could actually function properly, I see it as being, like I was saying before, that stake, that stick that holds up a plant, a tomato plant, right? We could use something like that. We could be a stick that guides the people, guides our communities, guides everybody around us towards growing in a better direction, in a more sturdy, positive way. That, I think, is the usefulness of a vanguard party, or a group of people that have special knowledge about socialism and communism and anarchism that can go around and teach everybody else about those sorts of things. But I don't think that those people should be in charge of anything, because I don't think that they would necessarily be the ones that are best suited for that job. I don't think that any specific group or person would be best suited to be in charge of everything anyway. And I think that hierarchies and structures like that need to come about more or less organically. They need to come about when they're needed, and they need to be dissolved when they're no longer needed. So would I think, do I think that if a bunch of different groups together were to come together, they would create a bunch of infighting? Maybe, right? Like I said before, it's a possibility. But if you look at the way that capitalism functions right now, essentially all of these different groups, all of these different companies and countries for that matter, they all come together through just contract agreement and negotiation, and they have decided to trade with one another and work together and not go to war because it's of mutual benefit for all. Obviously, there are some countries and businesses and so forth that don't have that, right? But the vast majority of them do. So I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be able to do the same sort of thing with a socialistic system.
You got a super chat from Kenneth Thompson.
Oh, thank you, Kenneth.
I keep hearing the term genocide when referring to the Indigenous peoples of Canada. Explain to an American what exactly is happening.
Okay, so I'm not 100% positive on anything that I say about the Indigenous population in Canada, because I know a little bit about it, but I'm not an expert on that sort of thing. And I would definitely say to go talk to somebody that, is actually an Indigenous person in Canada. But I do know that the Canadian government has been working very hard to sterilize the Indigenous population for many, many years. They were doing this all the way up to, I believe, even 5 to 10 years ago. And I know a lot of people that are Indigenous that have grandparents and even parents that went through that sort of thing, and also had to go through residential schools, which was essentially a type of school where they would take all of the native population and they would put them all inside of this one area, and they would forcefully indoctrinate them into believing Christianity or Canadian nationalism or whatever, basically stripping them away of all of the beliefs and thoughts and that sort of thing that they had in pertaining to their culture from before. So Canada has been doing that for decades. And if that is what they're talking about is considered a genocide, I would have to agree, because they are singularly targeting a specific group of people within the country and doing what I said to them. So yeah, that's my answer.
What other language do you speak, even a little?
Oh, I speak in bisschen amount of German, and very, very small amount. And I can read some French because I've lived in Canada my whole life, but I'm not proficient. I'm not good at I'm not good at words. I'm bad at that.
All right, you got another super chat from Paul No.
Hey, thanks, Paul. I appreciate it.
What are your thoughts on red capitalism in China?
Red capitalism. So I assume when you're saying red capitalism, you're kind of talking about the system that they have there. That's essentially a state capitalist system. Some people would call that a state communist system. China itself, I believe, calls it socialism with Chinese characteristics, I think. I'm not an expert on China. I actually just had a conversation with Paul Morin. Check out Paul Morin's channel. Really, really wonderful channel. I just talked to them about China the other day. And I was saying that the problem with China is that there's not enough information coming to the West to really get a good understanding of what's going on there. As far as state capitalism is concerned, because I can talk a little bit about that. obviously, I think that it's better than regular capitalism, I guess, in some ways. The Soviet Union had a similar system, or had somewhat of a state capitalist system. Lenin even said that they had a state capitalist system, I believe. Um, and they were able to do a lot of really good things for their people. The 5-year plans were able to get a lot of people fed. They were able to build a lot of infrastructure so they could house a lot of people and that sort of thing. But they also, when you boil it down, at the end of the day, you haven't erased the main contradiction within capitalism, which is the employer-employee relationship, the lord and serf, the master and slave, the ruler and the ruled. That is the fundamental dynamic that we wish to abolish and get rid of when it comes to communism and anarchism. We want to get rid of that, negate it entirely, and hopefully get a better system. So state capitalism, slightly better than regular capitalism, maybe in some ways, worse in others, but really not a solution as far as I'm concerned.
You got another super chat from fellow traveler.
Thank you, fellow traveler. Oh, this is so fantastic. Thank you all for donating. I really, really appreciate it.
Greetings. If one were looking to get into contact with you for a possible collaboration /
Oh, no.
discussion. Oh,
My phone is gonna die here too, so I'm gonna have to cut it short after a couple more questions. So sorry.
okay.
Finish that up.
If one were looking to get into contact with you for a possible collaboration / discussion, how would one go about doing that? Though I don't agree with you, I think you do good work. Cheers.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And hopefully everybody can still see me because I can't see anything at all. Okay. Yeah, I'm still on. Thank goodness. Okay, so to get a hold of me, definitely go to my email address. It's at officialre.education@gmail.com, I believe. And you can also DM me on Twitter at Professor Darwin, @ Professor Darwin. Y'all know how Twitter works. And my DMs are open. I can't always guarantee that I can answer every single DM. I've been getting so many more comments and questions lately that it's really hard to answer them all. So I might be doing more of these actually to answer some more of the questions that I've been getting lately. But yeah, try doing it on Twitter or try to email me as well. Sometimes I can do it in the comment section too.
When will we start the revolution?
I think Thursday. Thursday is when we're starting the revolution.
How do you reconcile community organizing with a community that can be hostile? For example, I'm very openly queer and as a result have been jumped twice and yelled slurs at my home village. How do you find people who will be receptive to your ideas when your identity is a problem for them?
Wow, that is such a good question. Yeah, so it really depends on where you are, right? And when I was growing up, we had a lot. Am I still recording? Hopefully. I think I only have 5% battery left, so I'm going to answer this question, and then we're going to have to wrap it up. And I'm so sorry, everybody. So when I was growing up, I looked funny. I was a weird-looking person. I wore makeup. I had funny-looking hair all the time. Wore women's clothes, like what do you call it? Fishnet arm stockings and stuff like that. I was basically a weirdo goth kid, and people really, really, really hated me, and I had a really hard time going out in public and talking to people. Luckily, that's not everybody, right? And hopefully within your community, even though there are a lot of people that are out there that are fully antagonistic to everything that you are and everything you and you as a person, hopefully there are people also that are not. And you're not going to know whether or not there are or aren't unless you're able to physically talk to a lot of people or find a way to associate with individuals. So yeah, maybe the guy down the street is going to just fucking hate you and think that you're the scum of the earth, but maybe the person that lives on the other side might not. And it might be just beneficial to talk to those people and find out if you can. But, you know, being in a situation where everybody is constantly antagonistic towards you, if you're trans, if you're gay, if you're non-binary, that sort of thing, even just stepping out to do that is hard. And I understand that entirely. So I would suggest if you can't do it in real life, please try to do everything you can online. And if you can't talk to people physically yourself, then try to get in contact with somebody else that can help you. Because if you can teach somebody else to talk to everybody, then that would really help. Right. So if there's any more super chats, no, we're all good on that. If you want to leave one more super chat, I might be able to answer one more of those before we go, but or else we're going to pretty much wrap it up. We're all good?
No more super chats.
Give me one more question. Maybe somebody will send one in.
Okay, what's your opinion on political extremism?
My opinion on political extremism, I think that depending on which direction it's going in, it can be useful. I don't think that accelerationism is necessarily a good thing, but political extremism, like you can have liberal extremists, you can have anarchist extremists, you can have nationalist extremists, right? So if the extremist is extremely trying to save people and helping them in their daily lives so they can eat, extreme, then I think that's probably a fine thing. But if they're extremists, like they want to exterminate all of one specific race of people, yeah, that's not good. I, in fact, think that that is very bad and they should be stopped by force.
This is a two-part question, so I'll give you the first one.
Sure.
What kind of music do you like?
Okay. I like a lot of different kinds of music. Old school gangster rap and ICP is my favorite band.
Do you think violent revolution is possible, specifically in countries with strong militaries and institutions like the US and Canada as they exist right now? And if not, do you think any sort of democratic transition to socialism is possible?
Democratic transition to socialism, no. I don't think that is possible. And as far as a full-on armed revolution goes, no. I don't think that either one of those are possible. The system will not allow you to democratically elect communism into reality. It will not just allow that sort of thing to happen. You have to fight for it. Now, as far as violently revolting at this current moment, the reason why you can't do that is because we don't have enough manpower to do it. And that's the whole point in building dual power. I've heard other people say, oh, well, you can't build dual power. You can only seize power at the barrel of a gun. Well, that's fine as long as you have enough barrels of guns. And there's no way to do that unless you talk to people in your community and get with people and actually build those societies. So then you can actually do something like that. But until you do, it's not even possible. So get out there, get active, talk to your family, talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, build dual power. That's how we build that part of the revolution.
You got a super chat from Monkey Liberty 86. How do you feel about the media trying to divide Zoomers and millennials by branding socialism as millennial socialism?
Oh, wow. I haven't heard of that yet. And now that I have, and thank you very much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Now that I have, I'm going to go and research that because that's really gross. I think that it's probably the exact same thing that they're trying to do with your grandparents and Generation X to the millennials, right? They're trying to make us divided from one another. And even though we riff on each other and even though we kind of like joke at one another, millennials and Zoomers really have a lot in common, right? We both grew up in times where we didn't have a past and we likely don't have a future unless we fight for one. So I think that we have a very strong common bond between us and Gen X too, right? A lot of Gen X too. And I think that they're doing everything that they can to split us apart and make it so we can't work together anymore. I think that we have to fight against it tooth and nail, right? What are we talking about? We're talking about our younger sisters and brothers, right? Or maybe even in some of our cases, our children. And we want our children to be fighting for a better future, and we want to fight for that better future with them. So hopefully that answers the question. And that's all that we're going to be able to do today because we're out of battery. So thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate everybody coming down today and sharing the love, sending in super chats, that sort of thing. If you want to help keep this channel going and allow us to keep making content and that sort of thing every week, please go to patreon.com/deadheadanimation and donate to us down there. And you should also be able to find a link in the description box below. And make ssure you're subscribed, hit the little bell button because they won't tell you when I release a new video. They fucking hate me. And that's it. So thank you very much for watching. Have a nice day. Now I have to awkwardly turn this off while I have nothing on the screen. Oh boy. Super boomer moment. I'm just going to turn my phone. No,